Can we outrun our past? Scene 1. Ryan was slouched back, eyes glued to the window while the plane climbed higher into the horizon. Such peaceful scenery on the other side of the glass, yet her insides were tangled up something fierce. With a frustrated huff, her hand instinctively went to scratching her head. Where the hell did she start unpacking this shit? This whole situation had been one crazy-ass ride. First, finding out that Marquis and Mary, people she thought were her friends, their allies, they'd been working for False Face this entire time. That stung. She'd welcomed them into her world, told them her business, and come to find out, they were just a couple of snake-ass liars the entire time. But that wasn't even the worst part, Ryan thought to herself with a bitter laugh. It turns out that Marquis wasn't just some random agent villain. He was also her half-brother. What the actual fuck? You know what I don't get? She said out loud. How Marquis could look me in the eye and play me like that. My brother? Sophie reached out, hesitating for a moment before deciding against placing a hand on her wife's arm. He's not your brother, Rye. Not in any way that matters. Blood doesn't make a family. But it does matter. Because it means that everything I thought I knew about myself, about where I come from, it's all been a lie. That's not true. Your life, your experiences, the person you've become, that's all real. Jada and Marquis, they don't define you. Ryan had to take a second, close her eyes and inhale deeply, trying not to lose her cool. I want to believe that. I do. But right now, my whole world is spinning out right now. I'm questioning everything and everyone around me. Who can I even trust at this point? The rawness in Ryan's voice made Sophie scrap her previous plan and attempt to physically bond by linking their hands. You can trust me, Ryan. No matter what happens, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. But Ryan pulled her hand away with a bitter laugh. Can I trust you? She shook her head. You haven't exactly been the poster child for honesty lately, Soph. I know I messed up. I should have told you about Jada sooner. I should have been more open with you about my fears and doubts, but hurting you was never the plan. I was simply trying to find the right opportunity to lay it all out there. But I'm still me. I'm still your wife, and I'll never stop being there for you. Ryan held up a hand, cutting her off. Not right now, please. I can't do this right now. She looked away, focusing her attention on the view outside. Sophie wanted nothing more than to pull her wife close, to promise her that they'd make it through all of this together. But the divide between them seemed impracticable. Scene 2. Freetown, Sierra Leone, safe house. They arrived at the designated safe house in Freetown, a modest but well-secured building on the outskirts of the city. They entered in silence, looking around the small, dusty place. Sophie set her own bag down, glancing at Ryan before speaking. We should head out now. Start searching for Jada while we have the element of surprise. Ryan dropped her bag on the floor, immediately pulling out her iPad to review the digital map Luke had provided. She studied the layout, trying to memorize every detail. Collecting her thoughts, Sophie knew she had to speak on this the right way. Hey, I know we're not in the best place right now, but I was hoping we can put that aside and focus on getting the hell out of this country sooner rather than later. Thanks for the reminder, Soph. I had no idea we were supposed to be professionals. Clearly you think I'm incapable of keeping my head in the game. No, I just wanted to put it out there. Make sure we're on the same page. For you or for me? Ryan asked, finally looking up at her. Matching Ryan's annoyed look, Sophie couldn't hold back her own irritation. Seriously? Ryan rolled her eyes. setting the iPad down on the table with more force than necessary. Look, I'm here to do my job, nothing more. Let's just focus on that, all right? What's that supposed to mean, Ryan? Nothing more? Sophie couldn't ignore what it implied. What about us? Our marriage? You don't want nothing more of that? I didn't say anything about our marriage. Well, you're not saying much of anything lately, so what am I supposed to think? You just said you wanted to focus on the mission only. How are you possibly the one catching an attitude with me right now? Ryan rubbed her eyes. Look, can we please just head out now and look for my deadbeat-ass mother? I don't have the energy for this right now. Sophie fixed Ryan with a hard look. Finally, she nodded, grabbing the keys to the Mobius truck from the table that was left for them, and headed for the door. She paused with her hand on the doorknob, turning back. Are we ever going to talk about what's going on with us, Rye? Like, really talk? I'm sure we will at some point. Ryan conceded, shoulders sagging. But I can't even wrap my head around it yet. I need some space to process, Soph. Just give me that for now. Sophie nodded stiffly, that lump in her throat refusing to go down easy. Okay, I'll respect that. Let's go then. They climbed into the truck, Sophie taking the driver's seat, and peeled out from the hideout onto a dusty back road. Scene 3. The business of Freetown streets swallowed Ryan and Sophie as they moved through the unfamiliar roads on the hunt for Jada Jet. The city's energy was a force around them, with street hawkers hollering to sell them any and everything under the sun. Sheesh, this heat is ridiculous. Ryan groaned, using the back of her hand to wipe away the sweat trickling down her face. She shed her jacket long ago, opting to just go with a tank top. She caught Sophie's eye, who looked equally drained by the temperature. How are we meant to hunt for Jada in this mess? Sophie pulled out a photograph of Jada. We start by asking around, showing her picture to locals. Someone's bound to have seen her. They approached a group of men gathered around a small table, playing a game of cards. Ryan held up the photograph, putting on her most friendly smile. Excuse me, sirs. We're looking for this woman. Have you seen her around? The guys glanced over, eyeing them with interest and suspicion. A skinny dude with a rugged mug opened his mouth, his British accent thick. Can't say I have, love. What's she done then? Ryan paused for a sec, shooting Sophie a, what do I say? Look. Sophie took the lead, keeping her tone level. She's a relative of ours, and we've been trying to locate her. It's a family matter. The man shrugged, turning back to his cards. Sorry, can't help you there. But you might try asking around the market. Lots of folks pass through there. They thanked the men and moved on, weaving their way through the crowded streets towards the market district. They spent hours showing Jada's photograph to anyone who would spare a moment, from tradesmen to street performers, but no one seemed to recognize her. With a wary look, Ryan approached a teen loitering by a rundown structure, cautiously presenting Jada's picture. Hey kid, have you seen this woman around? The teen squinted at the photo, keeping his face blank. Why are you asking? What do you want with her? Sophie came forward, her instincts telling her something was off. We just need to find her. It's important. She may be in danger. Suddenly, the boy snatched the photograph from Ryan's hand and took off running, disappearing into the puzzle of narrow alleys. Hey, she shouted, her feet already moving. Get back here, you little prick. Sophie tore off after Ryan, their steps clattering against the cracked sidewalks as they trailed the boy. They juked around, surprised bystanders. The boy hurried into a worn-down building, his small frame slipping easily through the crowd. Stop! Ryan shouted. We just want to talk. But the boy didn't slow up. He made a sharp turn into an apartment building. They followed, their bodies slamming against the heavy door as they forced their way inside. The building had dimly lit hallways and collapsing staircases, the air dense with the scent of mold and decay. They could hear the boy's footsteps echoing around them. "I'll take the stairs," Sophie panted, gesturing to the stairwell on their right. "You keep following him down the hall." Ryan nodded, already moving. She raced down the hallway, her eyes scanning each doorway for any sign of the boy. The sound of shouts and slamming doors was heard as the building's residents were roused by the commotion. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of his shabby shirt disappearing around a corner. She put on a burst of speed and turned the corner just in time to see the boy scrambling up another flight of stairs. "Sophie!" Ryan yelled, her voice echoing through the building. "He's heading to the top floor." She took the stairs two at a time. She could hear Sophie's footsteps somewhere, her partner's presence a reassuring constant in the chaos. With her wife's presence, she could breathe a little easier. She reached the top floor, her eyes immediately locking on the boy as he frantically tried to open a door at the end of the hall. She sprinted towards him, her hand outstretched. But before she could reach him, the door flew open, and the boy tumbled inside. Ryan followed, her momentum carrying her into the small, dingy apartment. The room was empty, save for a few pieces of beat-up furniture and a pile of old newspapers in the corner. She scanned the cramped room, disappointed when she saw the kid had slipped away. And then she saw it. Movement by the window. A woman with the same distinctive profile as Jada, her body halfway through the opening. "Hey!" Ryan lunged forward, but it was too late. The woman slipped through the window and onto the fire escape. Sophie rushed in, out of breath. "Where'd he take off to?" She was looking around. Ryan pointed to the window. I think that was Jada. She went out the fire escape." "Jada? She was here?" "I don't know. It looked like her." They dashed to the window, both attempting to squeeze through the narrow gap at the same time. The aging fire escape began to shake and creak, as though it might buckle under their weight. Ryan looked around the surrounding buildings, desperately searching for any sign of the fleeing woman. But the alleyway below was empty. The only movement was the fluttering of loose trash. "Damn it!" She slammed her fist against the brick wall, the pain barely registering. "We almost had her, Soph. We were so close. She couldn't have gotten far by foot. Let's grab the car and search the area." Ryan nodded, already moving towards their parked vehicle that wasn't far away. In they went, Sophie mashing the start button, and the ride came alive, tires spinning as she peeled out onto a small road. Cruising slowly, they looked for any trace of the woman. Ryan's heart was thumping, her fingers tapping on her thigh. Suddenly, she spotted a car across the street, a figure in the back seat with a hood over their head. She squinted, then her eyes expanded in recognition. "There, that's her. I'm sure of it. It's the same woman from the window." Sophie swung the car around and sped after the other vehicle. The chase was on, the two cars weaving through the crowded streets of the unfamiliar town. It wasn't long before the occupants of the other car realized they were being followed. Gunshots rang out, bullets pinging off the hood of their truck. "Shit!" Ryan ducked instinctively. "They're shooting at us." Sophie swerved to avoid a group of pedestrians. "We're too close to lose them now. You gotta shoot back, Rye." "I can't risk hitting Jada." "You won't. Aim for the tires, the exhaust, anything to slow them down. I know you got this. Trust your instincts." Swallowing hard, Ryan pulled her gun from her waistband, took aim out the window, and fired. The rear tire blew, the car fishtailing but not stopping. She kept shooting as Sophie wove through the streets, horns blasting and people screaming. Out of nowhere, a semi-truck came busting through, brakes screaming while it jackknifed right across the road. The car Jada was in had to cut sharp to avoid getting smashed, but it wasn't quick enough. A vicious collision shook the street, steel grinding as the vehicles smashed together. Jada's car went airborne, flipping and rolling until it crumpled against the brickwork. Ryan and Sophie jumped from their vehicle and maneuvered through the wrecked scene. They veered around mangled metal and busted glass. Other men came out from nowhere, ready to shoot at them. Ryan didn't even blink, throwing hands at the first one in her face. She bobbed someone's wild swing, then cracked her elbow across his jaw with a nasty pop. Sophie snatched the weapon from one person's grip, whipping around to confront the next with a kick to the face. They fought tooth and nail to get these, what seemed to be protectors of Jada, out of their way. The smell of burnt rubber and gasoline was becoming too much to handle. Sophie continued to shoot at the men, while Ryan yanked the door open of the overturned car, looking for Jada. There, in the back seat, was the woman they had been chasing. She wasn't battered too badly, and she had a few visible bruises, but she was alive and looking back at Ryan with confusion. "I got her!" Ryan pulled Jada from the wreckage and dragged her to the other side of the road where their car was. With a rough shove, she tossed the woman into the back seat with pent-up aggression. Jada offered no resistance. She seemed resigned, as if she had been expecting this moment for a long time. Ryan grabbed a pair of handcuffs and snapped them around Jada's wrists. She snatched a bandana from the floor, tying it tightly around the woman's eyes. Her hands were shaking, the reality of the situation slowly hitting her. This was her mother, the woman who had abandoned her, the woman whose secrets had haunted her for so long. And now, she was here, within reach. With the last of the men neutralized, Sophie sprinted back to the car and hopped in the driver's seat. Ryan sat in the back seat, her eyes glued on the woman beside her. Jada stayed silent. The cloth tied around her eyes hid her expressions. Sophie glanced in the rearview mirror, meeting her wife's eyes for a brief moment. She saw the pain in her wife's eyes, the unspoken questions, and the barely contained feelings. It killed her to witness Ryan's distress, knowing she couldn't wipe away those deep-rooted scars. All she could offer was a solid presence. She then cut to Jada's masked face and had questions of her own. "Why were you running? We're here to help you, to bring you to safety." Jada didn't respond or move an inch. Sophie tried again, this time more in a frustrated voice. "You sent a message to Blackbat. Why would you do that if you were just going to run from us?" She noticed Jada make a slight twitch at that, but still, the woman didn't budge. "Who were those men protecting you?" She swerved hard onto a merging street. "What are you involved in, Jada?" The questions continued to go unanswered and unacknowledged. Ryan watched the exchange and wanted to scream and demand answers too. To shake Jada until the truth came pouring out. But she couldn't find the words, couldn't force her voice to make a sound. She had to fight back tears. All those years wondering why her mom bailed, imagining how she'd confront her. It was too much. She played it out in her mind a million times, but now Jada was really here in the flesh, and Ryan was paralyzed. Scene 4. The Safe Spot house was quieter than a library after hours, just the occasional old floorboard giving away its age. Ryan walked into the kitchen, grabbed her iPad, and fired off a message to Luke. Jada secured, awaiting orders. She hit send and didn't bother moving from the table. In the other room, Sophie changed out of her shirt and then immediately ransacked through the shelves. She found a dusty first aid kit, the latch rusted and stiff. She chucked it at Jada, the kit bouncing on the couch. Jada eyed the first aid kit and tilted her head slightly, quizzically looking at the taller woman. Sophie let out an exaggerated sigh and freed her hands from the handcuffs. Locking eyes, she gave Jada a no-nonsense stare. Opening the kit, she tore open a packet of antiseptic cream, dabbing it on the scrapes on her knuckles. Then she wiped some dried blood off her face. Ryan watched them from the kitchen, but she remained silent. Sophie entered the kitchen and opened the pantry, the hinges squeaking. "You need to eat," she said to her wife. Making a non-committal noise, Ryan looked back down at her iPad. Sophie took that as agreement. She pulled out a bag of rice and a can of beans, the labels faded and peeling. "You did good out there," she said with her back to Ryan. "Damn good." "Oh, thanks." Ryan looked up, surprised. Nodding, Sophie set a pot on the stove and began to look for salt or pepper to add to the stale food. The kitchen was quiet as she worked. The only sounds were the soft hiss of the gas and the muffled thud of the can opener. Ryan watched her, still mad at her, though she didn't have the energy to yell anymore or pick another fight. Yet missing her wife, even though she was in her presence. It's like her heart was being tugged in opposite directions. The part that's pissed and offended, and the part that's still deeply in love. Unaware of her wife's inner turmoil, Sophie set 3 bowls of rice and beans on the table. She then went to get Jada from the other room and brought her into the kitchen, sitting her down at the table. "Sit, eat." Picking up on the awkward energy, Jada moved slowly, settling into a chair like she was treading on eggshells. Forks scraped against bowls. Ryan stared down at her food, gripping her spoon so hard her knuckles were turning white. Jada cleared her throat, noticing the wedding bands on both of their hands. "So, you two are married?" Sophie glanced at Ryan, but her wife's eyes stayed decisively on her bowl. She turned back to Jada. "Yeah, a few years now." Jada nodded, her spoon hovering over her bowl. "Through Black Bat?" "Yeah." Sophie's hand resting near her pistol on the table. A silent warning. "So, how did you two get into Black Bat?" Ryan's expression hardened, her mouth set in a firm line as she fixed her birth mother with a look that could cut glass. "Hey, enough with that." Sophie's hand drifted to her pistol, her fingers wrapping around the grip. "That's not how this works. We're the ones asking questions. Why did you run? We're your extraction team. We're here to get you out. So why the hell did you run from us?" Jada lifted a bite to her mouth, chewing methodically. Sophie let out a humorless laugh. "Unfucking believable." She shook her head, her eyes never leaving the older woman. "You've got a lot of nerve, sitting there like you've got nothing to say now. But trust me, you will talk. One way or another." Ryan pushed her bowl away. "Luke confirmed our pickup for tomorrow afternoon," she said, looking at Sophie. "Makes sense. They'll want us to keep a low profile after today's clusterfuck." "Yeah." Ryan stood abruptly. "I'm beat. I'm going to change clothes and crash." "Okay, there's 2 bedrooms." Sophie turned to Jada. "You're in one of them, and if you even think about trying to escape, I'll put a bullet in you. Got it?" Not a peep came out of Jada's mouth, but her tight jawline, that spoke loud and clear. "Rye, we got the other room." "Actually, I think I'll take the couch." "What? Why?" "That damn thing looks dangerous." "Someone needs to keep an eye on her," she said, jerking her chin towards their captive. "Just in case she gets any bright ideas about making a run for it." Pursing her lips, Sophie locked eyes with Ryan, trying to read her. Deep down, she knew Ryan had another motive, and she didn't blame her. But all she did was give a short, affirmative nod. "Yeah, okay. I'm gonna hit the shower first if that's cool." "Go for it." Sophie's voice was carefully neutral. She watched as Ryan disappeared to the other side of the house. In the kitchen, Sophie's hand never left her weapon. Jada sat still, watching the empty doorway where Ryan had been. "I can feel your judgment from here," Jada smirked. "Can you blame me? You abandoned your own daughter, left her to fend for herself in a world that's never been kind to people like us. You don't know the first thing about me, about the choices I had to make. I know enough. I know that Ryan is the strongest, most incredible person I've ever met. She's fought for everything she has, overcome more than you could ever imagine, and she did it all without you. Jada's grin dropped like it was too heavy to hold up any longer, replaced by a look that screamed, "Don't go there." You have no idea what you gave up, Jada. Your daughter's love, her hilarious self, her brilliance. She's a disruptor, and you missed the whole show because you couldn't hang. Pushing away from the table, Jada jumped to her feet, the chair's legs dragging noisily. "What's the matter? Can't handle the truth?" Sophie taunted as Jada stormed off. "Can't say I'm surprised you're cutting and running. You don't know a damn thing about me, about my life. You have no right to sit there and evaluate me." The bedroom door slammed shut behind her. Sophie sat there by herself, the table empty except for her. She figured she should be feeling like she won after checking Jada, but instead, she just felt empty, deep down. It was a damn shame that woman missed out on knowing someone as amazing as her wife. Letting out a deep breath, she stood up from her seat. There'd be more opportunities to go toe-to-toe with Jada down the line. But right now, her focus needed to shift to the mission at hand, getting her back to Gotham and uncovering the truth about the disappearance. Scene 5. Ryan's fingers shook as she fumbled with the buttons of her pants. The combination of being dog-tired and anxious had her struggling just to undress herself. She peeled the sweat-soaked tank top from her body, wincing as it pulled at her bruised skin from fighting those men. The bathroom walls seemed to close in around her, the small space growing more suffocating with each breath she drew. She dug through her bag in a hurry, her movements erratic and uncoordinated, as if she couldn't remember what she was searching for. Her toothbrush fell to the floor, and Ryan just stared at it, unblinking. Her vision blurred. She squeezed her eyes shut, refusing to let tears fall. Not yet. Ryan needed a shower like she needed air. It was her only shot at a momentary break from the panic squeezing her chest. She damn near fell into the tub, struggling with the faucet until hot water blasted out of the shower head. The sting of the droplets against her skin was a wake-up call from the numbing pain in her heart. With an unsteady hand, she grabbed the soap, scrubbing herself in rough, urgent strokes, desperate to wash away these feelings. And then, the dam finally broke. A raw, guttural wail erupted from Ryan's throat, bouncing off the bathroom walls like a wounded animal's cry for help. She stepped forward directly into the water spray, letting it cascade over her face. Her tears flowed freely, indistinguishable from the shower's downpour. Ryan's shoulders heaved with each sob, her entire body shaking. She braced one hand against the shower wall, the other pressed against her chest as if she could physically hold herself together as she fell to pieces. In the middle of her attack, she heard a light tap on the bathroom door. "Rye?" Sophie's worried voice fought to cut through the shower and Ryan's hiccuping cries. She couldn't form a reply, her mouth open, but nothing came out, only more cries. Another knock came, more insistent this time. "Ryan, baby, you okay?" Unable to bear it any longer, Sophie burst into the bathroom, her heart breaking as she took in the scene. She rushed to shut off the water and grabbed a towel. She wrapped it around Ryan's violently shaking body, guiding her out of the tub with tender hands that negated her own rising panic. Tears poured down Ryan's cheeks as she wrapped her wife tight. Salty drops slid down her face too, in empathy. "I'm here, baby. It's okay. I got you." She held Ryan close, offering the only comfort she could in the face of such overwhelming pain. Time passed, and bit by bit, Ryan's cries faded into hitched breaths, her body's convulsions mellowing into occasional quivers. She pulled away from Sophie's arms, legs wobbling, and used the towel corner to dab at her cheeks. "I'm good. Sorry about that." Ryan's words came out hoarse and scratchy, like she'd been yelling her lungs out for way too long. Sophie shook her head, reaching out to brush a strand of wet hair from her face. "You don't have to apologize for crying, love. It's okay." Ryan turned to the sink, gripping the counter as, She stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were red-rimmed and glassy. With a steadying inhale, she held herself upright. "I'm good now," she said after a long moment, her tone unconvincing even to her own ears. "Right," Sophie began, but Ryan cut her off with a shake of her head. "I'm good. I'll be out in a sec, okay?" Sophie sighed, recognizing the walls Ryan was throwing up again, her attempt to regain control. She nodded, respecting her wife's need for space, even as every inch of her being screamed to stay, to comfort, to fix. With a soft touch to Ryan's shoulder, she reluctantly left the bathroom. The soft thud of the door closing felt like a heavy period at the end of an unfinished sentence, leaving their feelings hanging. Scene 6. The house lay silent as Jada crept through the hallways. She paused at the bedroom door, looking inside to see Sophie sleeping. She moved on, her destination clear, tiptoeing into the living room. Her eyes fell on the couch where Ryan lay face down and her body sprawled across the cushions. Checking all the exits, she sized up any openings to book it out of there. An indistinct sound caught her attention, drawing her focus back to Ryan. Mumbles and moans escaped were heard, and Ryan's body twitched and thrashed against the couch. Jada froze, her escape plans momentarily forgotten as she watched her daughter's misery unfold before her. "Please, don't leave me." Staying or going, she couldn't decide. Ryan was having a nightmare. Jada knew she should cut loose, but something made her gravitate towards the couch. Her hand crawled out, ready to rouse her from whatever horror she was trapped in. Wake up! It's just a dream." At first, Jada just lightly jostled Ryan, hoping that it'd snap her out of it. When that didn't work, she had to really shake her to pull her back to reality. "Ryan, wake up!" Ryan's eyes snapped open, wild and unfocused. She jerked upright, pulling herself out of Jada's grip. Stumbling back, Jada moved her hands, watching as recognition slowly initiated on Ryan's face. "What the hell?" Ryan blinked as she took in Jada's presence. "What are you doing?" "You were having a nightmare. I don't need your help." Ryan swung her legs off the couch, putting distance between them. "Just stay away from me. You can go back to sleep now." Jada headed back towards the bedroom, Ryan's callous words cutting deep. But something in her made her stop and turn around. That something was telling her that she might not ever get a chance again to be in the presence of her daughter. "Look." She took a step back towards the couch. "We don't have to do this, okay? Let's just get you back to Gotham tomorrow, and we can both go on with our lives like none of this ever happened." Jada felt an old stubbornness kick in, the kind that pulled her through when the odds were against her. Shoulders back, she faced Ryan with a mom's lion-hearted determination, ready to fight for what mattered most. "Ryan, you might not be interested, but you need to listen. I have something to say, and whether you choose to hear it or not is your call. But I won't leave until I've spoken my mind." Ryan scoffed, but Jada pressed on. "I was an agent. A damn good one until the company I worked for turned their back on innocent people. Then, I became an informant. I exposed the illegal activities of False Face, and it painted a target on my back bigger than you can imagine. False Face. They weren't just bad, Ryan. They were evil. The things I saw, the things they made me do, it was like being in hell. They were using their power, their resources to play God. Overthrowing governments, fueling wars, all so they could line their own damn pockets. And they didn't care who they destroyed along the way. I was in deep, too deep. I'd seen things, done things, that I couldn't live with anymore. It ate away at my soul piece by piece." Dropping her voice to a soft tone, Jada carried on. "So, I made a choice. I chose to fight back, to expose them for the monsters they were. Thus, I became the whistleblower. I initiated the unmasking of their foul secrets for all to see. While this was all happening, I let myself fall for someone, a co-worker, and have an affair outside of my marriage. We were young and in love and created you. The mention of her father made Ryan's heart skip. She leaned in, hungry for even the smallest detail about the man half responsible for her existence. But then Jada dropped a bomb that turned her blood cold. But when my husband, a real big shot at false face, found out and killed your father, I knew I had to make a choice. I could keep you, raise you in the middle of all that danger, or I could give you up, send you away from it all, keep you safe. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, Ryan. But I chose your safety above everything else. I chose to give you a chance at a better life. Jada's eyes became glassy, and that decision was still eating at her after all these years. So why did I end up bouncing from foster home to foster home? Why didn't you make sure I was taken care of? Foster homes? Ryan, I had no clue. I thought you thought I what? I thought I left you in good hands, Ryan. There was a nurse at the hospital, and she promised to make sure you went to a good family. I even left money for you to make sure you'd be taken care of. I don't know shit about any nurse, and I sure as hell never saw a dime of that money. You didn't even think to check in on me after all these years. I wanted to, Ryan. God knows I wanted to. But every time I thought about reaching out, about trying to find you, I remembered why I had to give you up in the first place. Maybe it was selfish of me not being brave enough to face you. I convinced myself that you were better off without me, that I'd only bring you pain and trouble. But I see now how wrong I was about what I thought was happening all along. It crushed Jada to realize her big plans for Ryan's future had crumbled into dust, leaving her daughter off course all those years. I had to live with the guilt of giving you up every single day. It ate at me, knowing I'd failed you as a mother. Yet I found myself immersed too far, Ryan. I had dangerous people after me. False face. They're the kind of people that don't ever forget. And they sure as hell don't forgive. I couldn't risk them finding out about you, using you to get to me. Staying away, as much as it killed me inside, was the only way I knew to protect you. Ryan wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that her mother had stayed away out of love and protection. But a small, insistent voice kept whispering doubts, kept questioning whether she was really worth the sacrifice. This was the second time in the last week that she had been told that she had to endure pain for the benefit of her protection. And she was tired of hearing that shit. All those years, all that time wondering where I came from, why I wasn't good enough to keep. And now you're here, telling me it was all for my own good? How am I supposed to just accept that? Her voice cracked, the child inside her crying out for the mother she'd never had. I needed you, Jada. I needed my mother, and you weren't there. Ryan, No, you should have found a way. You should have fought for me like a real parent would. Instead, you just left me to fend for myself. I don't know if I can forgive that. I don't know if I can trust anything you say after all this time. She turned away to face the couch cushions, tired and drained. Look, I'm exhausted. I just want to try to get some sleep. I'm done talking about this. Respecting Ryan's request, Jada stood. She lingered at the threshold as she turned to take one last look at her daughter. Despite her impassive look, a vulnerability shone through her eyes, hinting at the years she had spent mastering the art of suppressing her true feelings. I want you to know that you're beautiful, Ryan. You're more than I could have ever dreamed of. While her words were calm, there was an undercurrent of genuine love and appreciation for her daughter that she couldn't quite hide, no matter how hard she tried to keep it locked down. When I first held you in my arms, you were this tiny little thing, but boy, could you scream. Jada laughed for the first time in what felt like ages. The doctor said they'd never heard of a newborn with lungs like yours. I remember thinking, this girl, She's gonna make sure the world hears her voice. She's gonna fight to be heard. And then your eyes. God, your big, beautiful, soulful eyes seemed to see right into the heart of me. Even as a baby, you had this way of looking at people that it made them want to give you the world. You'd be able to wrap anyone around your little finger with just a look. Hell, just like your wife now. Jada added with a chuckle for good measure. You were the most perfect thing I'd ever seen, Ryan. Call it mother's intuition, but I could already tell you were going to be something special. She took a step closer. In the short time I've been here, I've seen a lot of myself in you. Your strength, your toughness, the way you fight for what you believe in, your quick thinking. But you're also different from me in ways that matter. You have a light inside you, a goodness that's rare in this world. I see the deep connection between you and your wife. The fact that you have found someone to share your life with, who supports you through difficult times, brings me comfort. Though I know you're in pain, and it's mostly because of my wrongdoings, I still see the light in you. I know I have no right to be proud of you, not after what I did, but I am, Ryan. I'm proud of the woman you've become, and I'm glad I got to see it, even if it's just for a few hours. She took a step back and turned her back to Ryan so she wouldn't see the tears that she couldn't contain anymore. I don't expect your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it, not one bit, but I want you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and not a day has gone by that I haven't thought of you and wished things could have been different. As Jada spoke, Ryan felt her heart constrict with every sentence, the pain almost unbearable. She wanted to trust that her mother had truly loved her and had genuinely taken pride in her. Yet, the fact that Jada failed to mention a certain person's name left an uncomfortable void. There was one more thing she needed to know. One more piece of the puzzle that didn't quite fit. And what about Marquise? Is he part of this little redemption tour too? Or is he just another mistake you're trying to forget? Freezing for a second, Jada then pivoted to look at Ryan, her eyes wide, like she had just seen a ghost. What did you say? Marquis, your son. My brother, apparently. Ryan sat up this time. The one who's been trying to kill me and my wife. Are you proud of him too? Ryan, no, it's not. Marquis is... Save it. Ryan held up a hand. I don't even care at this moment. I don't want to talk about him, or you, or this whole fucked up situation. I'm going to bed. Don't come out of your room unless one of us comes to get you, or I might just let Sophie use her gun. We're done here. Jada's hurt expression received a cold shoulder as she turned away. The faint noises of her mother retreating and the door closing meant nothing to her, as images of Marquise's face continuously tormented her mind. Scene 7. The safe house was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the infrequent creak of the floorboards settling. Ryan sat alone in the dimly lit living room, staring blankly at the door. Jada's last words bounced around her mind. Damn it! She cursed to herself, shaking her head in an attempt to clear the fog. She glanced down at the couch where she'd been lying just moments before, her eyes drifting to the bag beside it. Her iPad was inside, just waiting to be used as a tool for distraction. But first, she felt the need to check on Sophie. She didn't know where that need came from, but it was in a T. It had been a long day for both of them, and their earlier exchange in the bathroom made her slightly embarrassed. Ryan tiptoed down the narrow hallway, avoiding the parts of the floor she knew creaked under the slightest pressure. She came to a stop outside the door of what they designated as Sophie's room for the night. The door was cracked open, just enough for Ryan to peer inside. Her eyes gazed tempered as she took in the sight of her wife, face scrunched up in her sleep. Her chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm, but Ryan's focus shifted to Sophie's right hand, which was clutching something with an almost desperate grip. She squinted, and of course the little friend that stayed with her, always. Sophie was holding on to her Glock, the same weapon she'd used earlier today. Even in her sleep, her wife was on edge, clutching on to the only protection she could count on these days. Swallowing the hard lump in her throat, Ryan pulled back from the door, silently retreating down the hall. There would be no peace for her tonight, not with so much unresolved between them. She wasn't ready to forgive, but she wasn't also ready to forget their love. So she returned to the living room and crouched beside the couch and unzipped her bag. She pulled out her iPad, clicking the Bluetooth keyboard into place. A quick glance around the room confirmed that Jada was still holed up in her own designated space. She took a seat on the couch, propping the iPad up on her knees. She adjusted her position, fingers poised over the keyboard, then paused. "What am I doing?" she whispered to herself, shaking her head. She wasn't even sure what she hoped to find, but the need to do something, to regain some semblance of control, was too strong to ignore. Drawing in a deep breath, she opened her encrypted Blackbat Access app and typed in her credentials. It only took a few seconds for the secure connection to be established, but to Ryan, it felt like an eternity. The home screen loaded, revealing a slew of icons and files. Ignoring everything else, she clicked into the internal data logs and ran a search for any recent classified transfers. Rows of data filled the screen, each one more confusing than the last. Ryan scrolled through them, scanning for anything out of the ordinary. It was a long shot. Blackbat was known for its tight security, but something didn't sit right. How the hell had Marcus and Mary managed to stay 2 steps ahead of them? Her eyes caught a particular log. OP. Foxtrot. Accessed. 18 hours ago. Level 6 security clearance required. The file had been tagged as restricted and marked with a classified label that made her heart quicken. Got you, she breathed without hesitation. She clicked on the file, ignoring the warning that popped up. A few seconds passed before the screen blinked and a message flashed in bold red letters. Access denied. Restricted information. Come on, show me something. She tried to bypass one restriction after another, using every loophole she learned over the years after her many after-hours hacking sessions. But every attempt led her back to the same infuriating message. She was locked out. Damn it. She slammed her fist on the couch cushion, biting back a growl of frustration. She couldn't just stop here. Think, Ryan, think. Her eyes darted around the screen, searching for any other backdoor entry, when a new message suddenly popped up. What are you looking for, Agent Wilder? The words blinked on the screen, harsh and taunting. She read the line and felt all the oxygen got sucked out of the room. Who the hell was this? Who are you? She muttered, not daring to type the question. Her mind hurried with possibilities. Was it an ally? An enemy? Her thoughts were spinning so fast that she almost missed the second message. Be careful, they're watching. The words disappeared as quickly as they'd appeared, leaving only a blank screen behind. She frantically tried to trace the source of the messages, her fingers flying over the keys in a desperate attempt to pull up a history log, but it was useless. The messages were gone, leaving no trace of where they came from or who had sent them. Shit! 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 She'd come so close, so damn close, only for it all to slip through her fingers. She ran a hand over her face, then glanced down the hallway where Sophie and Jada slept, then back at her iPad. It was still nothing. No sign of it ever existing. She rubbed her eyes, exhaustion setting in. It had been a long, emotionally draining day. Maybe her mind was playing tricks on her. The stress of everything, Jada, Marcus, Blackbat, her marriage, it was all piling up. Maybe she wanted to see something that wasn't there, to feel like she had a handle on things, like she had a lead. Did I really see those messages? She whispered to herself, frowning. The more she thought about it, the more the memory felt like it was slithering away. Could it have been a glitch? A figment of her imagination? She wanted to believe she wasn't going crazy, that she was onto something real. But maybe this was just another dead end. She had been pushing herself too hard. She scanned the room as if looking for an answer that wasn't there. I'm just tired, that's all. Just tired. Ryan hesitated, her fingers over the power button for a long moment before finally shutting the iPad down. Maybe she needed to take a step back. She wasn't thinking straight, and the last thing she needed was to spiral into paranoia. She pulled the blanket over herself, looking to hide away from the world. What if she was wrong? What if all of this was just in her head? As she drifted off, one final thought crossed her mind. Am I losing it?